My husband brought me coffee in this mug today, and it made me think about a concept that has been core to me since I was little. It's this struggle that I have been working through for my entire life. And that's the struggle that is highlighted in this musical, Les Misérables, or Les Mis, for those of you who are music lovers, that I think really resonated with me even as a kid, because it's the story of two people. One who is the picture of moral perfection and does everything perfect. At least it seems so. And the other one who makes mistakes but understands the power of grace. And that grace transforms his life. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm a business and personal development coach with a passion for helping business owners like you to develop a vision for their thriving personal life and also for the next step for their business and make both of those a reality. Why am I talking to you about this today? Well, I'm doing a series that is based on real life questions that clients have asked me, real life issues that I see them working through, and challenges that are really common among other business owners that I talk about. And I thought, since I am working with a group of people who are very successful, impactful business owners in their own right, and yet are working through these issues, I thought these are issues that are pretty universal to business owners. And I wanted to talk about them, and I wanted to invite you into the conversation. So why am I starting out talking about Les Misérables? Why am I starting out talking about a musical? Well, first of all, because it's on my coffee mug, and I love coffee. I drink Peet's coffee. I don't know what you drink. I would love to hear from you, but I'm pretty obsessed. I drink it black. I know, that's scary. But all of that aside, because to me, this concept, this longing for grace that has been with me my whole life has been an antithesis, or maybe the flip side of the coin, maybe the pull back and forth between trying to get things perfect, trying to get things just right, shiny, awesome the first time, and longing for the grace to play with it, longing for the grace just to be organic and to dive in the way that life really works. And this is a topic that I have found to be a challenge for a lot of us as business owners, especially in our entrepreneurial development part of us. When we have this next step that we're ready to move our business into, oftentimes we get stuck. We have this idea that we develop a vision for something and then we launch it and then it's successful. And in between, we really don't know what happens. It's just like, first I have this idea, and then it happens and it's successful and it's out there doing its thing. And we forget about the process. And most of all, in our scramble, in our mad dash, or our perfection paralysis, usually we go one way or the other, to get it done, we forget to allow time for what is going to make it successful. And that's what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share with you a concept, a simple concept that has revolutionized the way that I approach development for my own business and also for other programs and services that I've developed in other organizations and that I work with my clients to develop as well. And this concept is based around the concept from psychology called successive approximation. So at one point, needing a project management tool, I was developing for myself a template that broke down a series of steps that I could follow each time for each of the projects that I was working on in that current role that I was in. And one of my coworkers, a colleague of mine who had been my boss before, who was a faculty member at the university where I was working, he walked in and I showed him this template, and I was kind of excited about it because he had known my challenges with just kind of getting stuck and perfectionistic, getting stuck as I got started on projects because of this like, oh my gosh, I've got to develop this entire thing before I even get started instead of having it broken down. We had talked about that various times, and so I showed it to him kind of excited about this idea. And his background being in psychology, he looks at it and he goes, oh, that's what we call in psychology successive approximation. I had never heard of this term before. I had no idea there was such a thing. So as soon as he leaves, I'm Googling it, trying to figure out what it is. Well, it turns out this idea of successive approximation is the idea that with behavior, if you want a person, for example, a little kid, to adopt a certain behavior, let's say, for example, saying please and thank you. It's a tough one. But let's say you want them to develop these politeness habits of saying please and thank you. You can tell them the concept, you can yell at them, you can beg them, you can plead them, but until they've got it down, they're not going to have it down. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's a process to develop this kind of behavior where we get in a situation, we remember that that situation triggers this behavior, the need for this behavior, and then we start to work on it. So maybe we start out by just teaching them about the situation. And then we explain that in the situation, you say please, and we explain why. And then we get them to the point that they start to say please part of the time. And each time we go crazy and we reward them. Does this kind of sound familiar? It's like how we teach speech, right? And then they're like, oh, I did something really good. So they make this positive association in their mind. And the next time, maybe they forget, but the third time they remember, we go crazy again. Well, pretty soon, once they're remembering that, then we wean out as much recognition for it. Maybe we add on the next step. Maybe we want them not just to say please, but to say, please, may I have? And then when we explain that and they start to get may I have instead of can I, whatever it is that you're a stickler about, then we reward that and then get them to the point that they say, please, may I have? And then we add on thank you. And maybe that's out of order, but that's an example of using successive approximation with behavior, where each behavior is one successive step closer to the end goal that we want, but we don't introduce it all at once. We don't expect them to get it down all at once. And that's the idea with successive approximation. So once I understood this concept and I understood how it applied within my template that I was creating for myself, all of a sudden I realized the magic of this. And it went beyond just this cool idea that I'm going to have steps and I'm going to break it down into a whole mindset shift. So now I had a series of stages that I would go through for developing any project. Well, I started out with allowing time and making sure I'm allowing time for each step with allowing time to dream. Time just to dream big and to envision what it's going to look like. I'll talk about that more in another video, the power of dreaming, the power of envisioning. It sounds all touchy-feely. It is probably the most important thing you can do before you embark on anything new. And I'll talk about why in another video. But the next step is, instead of dreaming it up, kind of getting this idea and then doing it, because what is doing it really? The next step is playing with it. It's just starting out some kind of first iteration, a prototype, or maybe a first version of whatever it is you're developing, your scaled up company, your new product that you're developing. It's just your prototype. And that's when you get to start to play with it. You get some people to try it out, you beta test it, you get feedback, and then you move on to your next version, which is doing it. You're knocking out the real version, but again, you're taking time to revise it based on the feedback that you're getting. You're listening. I define success as impact plus profit. And the impact that you're going to get is from listening to the customers, listening to the clients, and to their actual needs. Because when they have that pressing need, that urgent need for what it is that is actually in reality going to impact their life, that's where you move in to make your profit, because it's a fair exchange. The value of it should be significant for them, and that value is going to help make your company or your business profitable as well. So then you're moving past that doing phase. Do you see how we're moving in circles? This reflects life. This is that grace-based approach where instead of rigidly moving through, I have an idea and then I rush through this process and then I knock something out, or I have to do it all perfectly before I start. That's where I would get stuck and still get stuck sometimes, because let's be honest, I'm a human being and I'm still working through my challenges. But this has changed all of that for me in terms of just understanding that I'm never really totally there. Now that sounds scary, but it's the idea that as I move closer and closer toward the center, as I develop my service, my product, even my new business, that I am just taking a step closer with each iteration. And until we started out dreaming, then playing with it, then doing it, knocking out that kind of core of the final version. But we're still going to, during our launch phase, as we're doing our marketing, our publicity, hiring employees if you need to, whatever it is to get that next step ready, we're also doing more tweaks and revisions. And then we launch. Okay, that's not the end though. Your core of your circle is your run phase. That's where you are in your new scaled up version. You're in your new office or new location. You have your new product or service that's out in the hands of the customer or the client, making their life better. And also, you're continuing to tweak. You're continuing to refine. Until you get it perfect? No. Until you get it accurate. Until it's doing what it was intended to do. Having the impact that it was intended to have on your client or your customer, and bringing in the revenue that you expected. And you continue to refine as you move through that process. Do you see the beauty of this approach? It means that for those of us perfectionists who get frozen when we look at this huge mass of some kind of undertaking that we want to develop and make a reality, and also those of us who tend to race through the process to get it knocked out as fast as possible, it brings both of us back to that true success, making sure that we are moving through the phases. We're not getting stuck in any one part because we have the pressure off of us. Now we have the grace to play and to develop and just to see what it's going to become. Yeah, of course we have our goal. We have our specific goal, but we're willing to tweak it and refine it. And at the same time, we're also focusing in on it, not moving so fast and then moving on to the next thing before we've really figured out where that true success lies and mined it for all that it has to offer. We're taking the time with each step to refine it, to get it closer and closer to that goal. Never the pressure of having to have it done perfectly the first time, because it's never really totally done, just like life, to be super honest. And we're also continuing to get everything that we can out of it along the way to make sure that it's what we dreamed it would be. That's it. That's the goal, and that is the beauty of successive approximations. I call this system that I use for myself, that I use for my clients, I call it dream it real. That idea that you start out by dreaming, and as you move through this successive series of steps, approximating little bit by little bit closer and closer toward the goal, that you are making your dream a reality. And that's something that's worth it to me. Let me know in the comments down below how you think that this concept of successive approximation would help you to move your business forward into its next development phase. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you would like a more detailed description of what this looks like, go ahead and grab the free resource I've included down below. It contains a graphic and also some questions and thoughts to help you move through thinking through what this would look like for your business. I've included it in the description section in the link down below. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be notified the next time that I put out a video, because I'd love to keep this conversation going. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.